Did we need to drag her from what looks like the pits of hell when you came out of your, sorry guys, but you came out with your whole red outfit and your, you know, flying in the wind situation? I just felt like every time I see her, I just feel like, go back to the void from whence you came. That's how I feel, okay? All of this together to me kind of made Usher's performance feel like it wasn't living up to his own hype. Hey family, welcome back to the Velvet Devotion channel. I am one of your hosts, Mrs. B. I am the second part in the husband and wife duo that makes up Velvet Devotion. We are Christian artists based in the UK in London, and this channel is basically designed to help creative people and artistic people to understand the struggles they may face due to their creativity. So, today, we are going to be talking about Usher, as you can see from the title. We're going to be looking at his amazing performance. We're going to be looking at whether or not he was as good as his predecessors, as good as the artists who came before him. We're going to be looking at what artistic excellence actually is and how we as artists can actually walk in that direction, and how we can help to improve our lives and how we can pursue excellence in our own lives no matter what field of artistry we're in. And I'm going to really try and break this down for you in a way that is basically helpful to the everyday person, because of course we're not all performing at the Super Bowl, but we can look at this and say to ourselves, how is this something that's going to help us in our everyday lives and help us to be more fulfilled as creative people, as artistic people, and just help us to walk this out, okay? So, first things first, I'm going to just tell you how I feel about this performance, because weirdly, as much as I am so, you know, amazed at Usher's skill and talent and ability, I actually didn't like this performance as much as I've seen and liked some of his other performances. But let's start with the pros first of all, okay? Because I want to give Usher his props. I am very much so aware of the level of excellence that it takes to even get to the Super Bowl in the first place. And so I want to give him his props. So let's start with the pros, okay? So first of all, can we just address the fact that Usher literally was singing, dancing while rollerblading? Okay? About midway through the performance, he was literally on rollerblades as he was singing and dancing. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have tried to rollerblade, but rollerblading in itself is a skill, okay? And I know this because it took me when I was a child, I want to say at least 48 hours to learn how to rollerblade. And I mean, he was on skates, which is 4 wheels rather than like one long strip. But it took me 48 hours to figure out how to just get up and down the road, okay? And then after, you know, a season in my life of being like, yeah, I want to rollerblade, yeah. Really and truly what happened was I got bored of the whole situation. I left it alone, and I have not really rollerbladed since. And I actually bought my husband some skates at one point for Christmas. And when you are an adult, you realize the dangerous levels of how something that you did as a child is actually quite dangerous as an adult, trying to just like ride like in the park or, you know, on the road. You realize that if this person does not stop in time, they can run into a tree, they can fall down and break their head open. Like, you think all of these things that you did not think about as a child, you are now thinking and realizing as an adult. And I was very, very quickly like, it's okay, babe, you know what, don't worry about those skates, you know, it's fine that you can't exactly figure them out, don't worry about it. The fact that this man was singing, dancing, and skating is insane to me. Like, it shows you the level of skill and how much he would have trained and practiced to be able to do that, okay? Because not only was he singing live, but he was actually pop locking, doing all this madness while he was skating. And he was skating like in a circle around the other performers. So all it would have taken for him to fall flat on his face would be for somebody to be in the wrong place at the wrong time for this entire thing to flop, okay? So for him to do that live, I was extremely impressed. And I was very, very much so just in awe of his athleticism and his ability. It was absolutely amazing. So that was pro number one. Pro number two, Lil Jon. I'm so sorry, but just the fact that I haven't seen Lil Jon in a while, maybe this is a nostalgia thing for me, I don't know, but when you come out and you hear Lil Jon and, you know, you get that, yeah, like you just kind of feel it. And the camera work of how they were like working with him, the way he was, the camera was going up and down while the music was happening, and there was, you know, dancers there, and it was just, it made you feel like you were a part of the whole experience, even though you weren't actually in the stands. It really made you feel like you were there, and that was amazing. Like, then on top of that, just the camaraderie of everything. Like, I actually felt like this was a real good moment for Black entertainers generally, because typically speaking, whenever we as Black people, and I'm saying we because, you know, as much as I don't want to make this a race thing, I do notice that, you know, when Black people perform, typically speaking, we don't always necessarily work well together. Like, you guys know that there's been nothing but beef amongst the rap girls recently, and there's just been problems with the comedians and problems here, there, and everywhere. So I think it was actually really good to see a group of performers get together and show what Black excellence can actually look like. And I am not one of these people who's like, Black excellence, Black excellence. No. I like, personally, I am very much so a thing of just be excellent regardless of what color you are. However, I would be foolish and unwise to not recognize that our people have obviously had struggles. We've obviously come a long way in terms of our development and our growth as a people. And I think it is something that you really have to recognize when you see a group of talented performers coming together to give an excellent performance and to slay it, okay? So for me, I really feel like that was just a real moment, especially at the end. And, you know, he's talking, and I'm not gonna lie, Usher always cracks me up anyway, the fact that he says his own name in every song. It's like, to me, whenever artists do that, it cracks me up. Like, I never watched Pokemon when I was a child because my parents thought it was demonic, and they were absolutely right. But you couldn't help but notice, you know, the trends or certain things that were happening, like the way Pikachu would just pop out and be like, Pikachu. That is literally how I feel every time I hear Usher be like, Usher, Usher, Usher. Like DJ Khaled, it's another one. Like, okay, DJ Khaled, we understand. And it's so funny because we had a guy called Craig David who used to do that as well. This man would say his name on every single song, and it was just hilarious to me. So I rate the fact that Usher, you know, basically is reminding us who he is. He reminds us, you know, I am actually an OG in the game. I've been here for a long time. That's how I even got this gig in the first place. And, you know, I have to give him his props. He did well, okay? He did very well indeed. Yes, come on minions, clap with me. Yes. So this is gonna be a little bit awkward because obviously I'm gonna make a segue now into the reason why I didn't fully like it. And I think for me, and this is why this topic is even coming up for me, I actually felt like, weirdly, even though he did an amazing job and it showed his ability, I actually don't feel like this was the best I've ever seen Usher perform. Growing up, Usher was, for me, because I was born in 1989, so my formative years were in the 90s, and when things were going on with Usher and, you know, the confessions and all of this stuff, it was very much so, you know, Usher's time to shine. And so for me, there were several things that I noticed about his performance that I think, because I was comparing him to himself, you know, very much Raymond versus Raymond situation, if you know, you know, I really was a little bit disappointed just because I felt like he took that Vegas vibe, because I know he's had a residency in Vegas, and I felt like he brought it a little bit too much over. So first things first, I was very, like, I know obviously at the Super Bowl, people are going to, you know, want a lot going on, okay? But I felt very much overwhelmed in the beginning, because it was like, there was so much happening. It was almost like I couldn't completely focus on him, if that makes sense. Like, there was feathers, and there was, you know, people playing instruments, and there was a lot of dancing happening, which was good, but it just felt like it was way too much for me personally, okay? Feel free to disagree with me in the comments, but for me personally, it just felt like there was way too much. And I felt like it almost kind of took a little bit of the attention away from him. And weirdly, because there was so much going on, it felt like I just couldn't focus. And I didn't really like that. The second thing I didn't like was that I just felt like there was so many songs. Now, do not get it twisted. I completely understand that Usher is an amazing artist. He has been in the game for at least 20 years, I think, at this point. And obviously, he has done hit after hit after hit, especially in the 90s when I was coming up. So I do understand why there was so much to be put into this time period. But I almost felt like if he had picked a few of his greatest hits and focused on them, it would have felt more smooth. Because for me, it felt like, because he was trying to cram in so many songs in one you know, short time period, it just felt very rushed, and it felt very overdone to me personally. And I say this because, you know, when I look at other performers who have gone before him, they would basically pick a lot of their really major famous songs, and they would focus on them for a little bit longer. So it wouldn't be, yes, it would be a lot of songs, but it wouldn't be so many that you kind of didn't feel like it flowed. Because to me, that's what it felt like. It felt like he was trying to do so much, cram in so much, that it was just too much for me, in my opinion. The other thing is, it's weird, because I just praised the camaraderie of everything, and I felt like it was a great moment for Black entertainment. But I honestly felt like there was just too many side performers. And weirdly, on the one hand, it was like, yes, like if he had come out with just Little John and Ludacris, I would have been happy with that personally, because I feel like we know that Usher has already done all this amazing work with all these amazing people. And I felt in a way that it actually kind of took away from him a little bit, because this is your Super Bowl performance. So for me, it felt like, even though it was amazing to see the excellence and the camaraderie of everything, it also felt a little bit like, but you're Usher, you know? I don't need to see all these extra people. I just need to see you doing what you do at a more, you know, slow pace, just for us to be able to really take in what's happening. And so, and again, I'm not sitting here trying to complain, because really and truly, again, what he did was amazing, okay? But it just felt very much so like we didn't necessarily need all of these people, because I'm pretty sure he had like 5 guests or something, and it just felt too much for me. The other thing is, and I just will say, Alicia Keys. Okay, I'm not actually going to criticize her for her vocal performance, because I recognize how hard it is to sing at that level, and to sing vocally, like to get the smoothness in your voice on a starting note, because that song is actually, it's very high. So if I just give you an example, for me, a comfortable range would be, some people want it all, but I don't want nothing at all. Like, you can see how much I am struggling, and I am literally sitting here in my living room talking to you, okay, which is essentially me talking to myself. So there's no pressure. I'm not playing the piano. There's no air that could possibly be drying out my voice. I'm not singing in front of millions of people, and I just sang that in the wrong key. I'm pretty sure the key she was singing in was way higher than the key I was singing in. So I'm pretty sure her key is like, some people, like, as soon as you start going up there and you're singing in your full voice, that is very difficult to pull off, okay? So I can give Alicia a bit of a blight and a bit of a, I can let her go for that, okay? my issue was is why did we need her in the first place? I mean, with all due respect, no, you know what? With no due respect, because I don't respect her. I'm just going to be real. I have had a problem with Alicia Keys from when she stole that man's husband, okay? And my issue is she stole someone's husband, to me, ruined her career in the process, because Alicia was like an alternative artist in my eyes. Like, she came out of nowhere. She had real talent. She wasn't shaking her butt everywhere. She seemed to have good morals initially. And then she just mashed up her whole career by stealing someone else's man. And it's like, when you're Alicia Keys, do you really need to steal someone's husband and take them away from a young family? Like, you literally took a father away from their child. And it's like, to me, ever since then, she has just been stained to me. And I just feel like, did we need to drag her from what looks like the pits of hell when you came out of your, sorry guys, but you came out with your whole red outfit and your, you know, flying in the wind situation? I just felt like every time I see her, I just feel like, go back to the void from whence you came. That's how I feel, okay? I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying you guys have to agree with me, but that is honestly how I feel. You literally did this. You tried to act like it was normal, and I'm not over it. I'm sorry, guys. I'll probably never be over it. I'm kind of just annoyed with women in general, just stealing people's husbands and just acting like it's fine. But we're going to cover that in another video. In fact, I actually have a video that I'm planning to do. Hopefully, I'll be able to do it with Mr. B, but if not, I'm going to cover this because I think we as artists, and specifically female artists, need to understand that what you do with your life personally is going to affect your career professionally. But that's another video for another day. Okay, darling? So yes, I just felt like all of this together to me kind of made Usher's performance feel like it wasn't living up to his own hype, if that made sense. And for me, that is what artistic excellence is. It's not necessarily comparing you to others who have come before you or to others in your field necessarily. It's comparing you to yourself and to what you are and what you are capable of. So yes, let's talk about how we can learn from this in our own lives. I'm going to give you some practical examples of how artistic excellence and you being excellent in yourself as an artist and as a creative person can actually manifest in real life, in a real world scenario. And then we're going to actually compare to some of the previous people that have done the Super Bowl and look at why they did well or why they didn't do as well. And I think it will help you to understand what I mean. So for me personally, and I'm always going to use personal examples just because it's relevant to me, it's real to me. I have always been a childcare professional. I have been working in childcare for over 15 years now, and I love children. I've always loved working with kids. There is nothing better to me than working with kids. And anyone who works with kids will tell you, you actually have to be a very creative and artistic person to work with children, specifically younger children, because they take so much entertainment. Like, you have to be, you know, a nurse when they fall over and hurt themselves. You have to be an artist when they're doing their arts and crafts. You have to be able to cook and bake and, you know, tell stories in a funny voice and do all of these things that are super creative. And essentially, I don't think people really appreciate how much actual effort it takes to look after a big gang of children, you know? And so for me personally, in my life, as much as I was qualified when I was 18 years old, 18 or 19, I don't know why, I can't remember the year off the top of my head. Please excuse me, I'm pregnant. But I have been qualified for many, many years, and I went on to start my own childcare business, and I had a childcare business for about 7 years. And essentially, I ended up having to close that business down just because I had to choose at the time whether or not I would be able to afford to carry on my business or be able to afford to get married and start a life with my husband, because it really was kind of a toss-up because of, you know, various situations, which I'll explain on another day in another video. But essentially, my husband knew This is something that I am passionate about. I've always been passionate about it. Even if I put this down right now, I am going to continue working with children, and I'm going to eventually start another business again working with children because of how much I love it and how passionate I am. And I got to a point in my life recently where I really felt like a failure. I'm just being honest. And the reason I felt like a failure wasn't because I hadn't pursued my goals. It was because I had pursued my goals, but I hadn't reached the pinnacle of where I felt like my life should be. And I really was just very much so despondent, and was just very much so like, why haven't I gotten to the place I want to get to? And you know what I had to realize? And even though I'm a Christian, I think this applies to people whether they're Christian or not. Every step in your life is a step towards your goals, okay? It's not about the amount of times you fail or the amount of times you get knocked down. It's about the amount of times you get up and continue and choose to move forward, okay? And what I realized is the choice that I made at a particular time in my life was a choice that I felt that God had directed me to make, which was marry my husband, okay? And the decision that I made to do that, because I felt that God had told me to do that, number one, I could be very secure in that because I felt like, yes, this was the right decision, and it definitely was. I love my husband. He's amazing, okay? But at the time, I was unsure because I was like, I don't want to lose my dreams so that I can get married. And what God had to show me was that me getting married was actually, in the long run, going to help me to fulfill my dreams and not make me lose them. And so when I felt confident with that, and I was like, okay, God, this is something that I'm actually gonna, have to keep pursuing, even though obviously I'm, taking a bit of what I thought was a detour in terms of my marriage. But what I learned was, it is never the fact that we have setbacks or detours or anything like this. You have to keep going and keep pursuing your goals and pushing yourself to be the best version of yourself you can be every single day. And what I discovered, me marrying my husband actually made me a better person. And not only did it make me a better person, but it made me look at my childcare business from a completely different lens because I had taken this quote unquote detour. And essentially what I learned is that at the time, if I had started my business, or continued with my business, should I say, in the way that I had wanted to, not only would I possibly have not gotten married at all at that point, and maybe I wouldn't have gotten married ever, I don't know, but I would have actually not had the best business I could have had because there were numerous things going on in my life in terms of the people that I trusted, the scenarios that I was in, that I did not necessarily see as being negative as the time. And what for me seemed like a setback and seemed like me separating from my dreams and goals was actually God trying to set me up for something better, okay? And what I have discovered now is that when I go on to go back into the business, I am going to know so much more and be so much more stable with everything that I was, planning on doing and everything that I'm going to be doing. And I actually expanded my knowledge and my wisdom in this time period. So I went on to work as a youth mentoring specialist, and I went on to work with teenagers. And because my field was from 0 to 5, I had always worked with kids from 0 to 5 or from like 6 to 11, just because I was very comfortable with younger children. And don't get me wrong, I was always good with older children as well, but me working in my comfort zone kept me there, if that made sense. Once I got married, I felt that God was telling me to try something new, and I did it, and I realized that I needed to expand my knowledge in terms of working with teenagers. And even though I had worked with teenagers before in youth group, like in my church and things like that, and I was actually really good at working with teenagers, working with them from a professional standpoint was a completely different thing to me, and it opened up my world completely and differently. And what I discovered is, me being an artist and me being a creative person, first of all, it traveled through every part of my life, okay? So me being a creative person, literally affected everything that I did, from whether I was singing or working with a child in some kind of way. It was something that impacted everything that I did. And I had to accept that about myself and realize that, okay, whatever I'm doing, I need to work to a standard of excellence, okay? Whether I'm working with younger children, older children, whatever that is. And I need to be the best version that I can be in this particular area. So as soon as I went to work for this other place and these other people, I actually did really, really well working with these people. And what it showed me was, I realized that yes, okay, I was better at certain things than other people, but I also realized that that wasn't the thing that really mattered. What mattered was, am I improving myself and my skill regardless of the fact that I have not met my ultimate goal? And if you actually think about the Super Bowl, there was a point where Usher talks to his mum and he basically said, nobody thought we were going to make it, but we're here, right? And he's talking, and you can see that there have been numerous times in Usher's life where he probably thought, I'm never going to make it to the Super Bowl, or I'm never going to, I've had this setback or that setback. And I was once at this point in my career and I was doing so well. And then I took a dip and, I failed or whatever. And what you could see was that Usher was proud of himself, because even though he had those dips, he did not stop pursuing his dreams. And what I realized in my life is that, okay, I stopped my business so that I could get married, I could do what I felt God was telling me to do. But in that process, I actually grew in a different area. I learned things about childcare that I hadn't learned before. And even though I did know them in theory, because obviously I had studied them and things like that, doing them in practicality was a completely different situation. And I learned so many things about people as well, about who to trust, who not to trust, why you shouldn't work with your friends and family members and things of that nature. I learned because of the fact that I had taken this quote unquote detour. And so what it showed me was that excellence is something that you pursue continuously. And just because I have not gone back to starting my business again at this point does not mean that it's not going to happen, number one. And it does not mean that I cannot continue to pursue excellence as I am growing in my field, if that makes sense. So I actually went on to do further education in childcare, and I realized that so many of my friends, they have been in situations as artists and creative people for years where they are completely stifled and miserable, because instead of following their dreams and understanding that a setback does not always mean it's actually a setback, but it can actually be a setup, they literally would give up on their dreams, do something completely different, and now they're living miserable, unhappy lives. And what I have realized is, even though I am not where I want to be, I am not where I used to be. Even though I have not reached the pinnacle of the heights that I want to reach, I am still closer than I was when I first started out. And this is what was amazing to me about Usher's performance. While I did not personally think that he did as amazing as he could have done for himself, this was still excellent for him, because it's the highest he's been at this point in his career, if that makes sense. And in terms of him being better at that Super Bowl performance than he was when he first started, absolutely. In terms of him being one of the best in his field, full stop, 100%, okay? And in terms of him showing us what can happen when you pursue your dreams, pursue your goals, go after it with, real effort and fervor and energy, it shows that regardless of the scandals that come out against you, regardless of the things that come out before you and, the things that seem like they're pushing you down, you can actually rise above it. You can transcend people's expectations, and you can still make it to your goals, even at a later point in life. Because I'm sure people probably thought, Usher, yeah, he was hot one time and, now he's been done and past it, And this is what the thing about artists as well that's really frustrating. People think that if you are young, that is the prime of your life. And, if you don't manage to get successful in that prime, that's it for you. Whereas actually, if you look at all of the legends A lot of these people did not reach legendary status really until they got to their 40s and 50s. And what happened was they were on their grind all that way, okay? Trying to outdo themselves. They weren't necessarily trying to compare to others. They were trying to be better and better and better and improve their own skills and their own knowledge and understanding of their craft, okay? So if you can do this as an artist and a creative in whatever genre you are in, whether it's photography, bakery, working with kids, whether you're doing pottery, whether you're just a creative person and you're just trying to figure out what it is that you are actually good at, you can figure this out while learning new skills and growing in yourself and developing yourself as a person and becoming better. That is how you will achieve artistic excellence, by being the best version of yourself. Let me tell you, I actually think, and I have thought for a while, that the best performance we have had at the Super Bowl for years was actually Lady Gaga. And let me explain why. And I'm just going to say right now, I am not a Lady Gaga fan. I do not like what she represents. I do not like her politics. I do not like her demonic ways or the way that she, talks about religion, and she just does too much for me, okay? I've never been a fan of Lady Gaga. But let me tell you right now, Lady Gaga, in my opinion, put on one of the best Super Bowl performances anyone has ever seen. And I say this with the exception of like Michael Jackson back in the day, who really had no sort of special effects. He was just being amazing. The reason I felt that Lady Gaga was absolutely amazing was because she did everything perfectly according to who she is, okay? So first of all, this woman started off on the roof of the Super Bowl, wherever it was, okay, Super Bowl building. She's singing, and her singing is pitch perfect. She's literally singing, and there's drones above her doing the American flag. Then she jumps down from the ceiling and basically does a backflip in the middle of the air. And then she starts singing and performing on her own. So for the first few seconds, you're really caught up by the fact that she is just amazing, because you're like, this woman vocally, she's amazing, okay? Then she just jumped from the ceiling. Then she's doing all this stuff. Then she comes down and she starts dancing in synchronization with all these people. She has all these lights, all these effects, but your focus is on her the whole time, okay? And what's really amazing about it, I don't know how long this performance was. Let's say it was maybe like 14 minutes. I don't know. This woman sang and danced and literally performed the whole way. She sounded almost perfect. And when I say almost perfect, nobody is actually perfect. But what she is good at doing is she's good at knowing when to sing and when to project and really controlling her vocal ability so that her voice sounds like it's perfect at all time, even though she's out of breath, And she played the piano, she played the guitar, she danced around full force, and she did not have one guest performer. No one else. It was just her. It was her and her music and her excellence. And then to top it all off, she runs up the stairs at the end of the performance, throws down the mic and catches a football and jumps into oblivion. I'm sorry, but for me, I was like, I don't even like you, but I can actually appreciate and see how this is amazing. And for me, when I saw that performance, I was like, not only to me was that possibly one of the best performances we've ever had, but in terms of her showing who she is and her level of excellence and her level of skill, that was perfect. It was perfect. And, were there things that in her mind she probably could have done better? Maybe. But as a person watching from the sideline, she timed everything perfectly. She sang almost perfectly, okay? She did everything that you could possibly want somebody to do as a performer. She completely engaged the audience, and it was amazing. And now, again, do I recommend her as an artist or as a person? No. Am I a fan of, you know, women being half naked, you know, dancing around, talking about their, you know, political affiliation? Not really, okay? You know, identity politic? No. But can I appreciate that this woman put on an amazing show? Yes, I can. It goes to show that when you are competing against yourself, you will always be excellent, because you will look at the last thing you did and be like, right, I either need to be on point with this or better than this. So guys, understand that you can be the best version of yourself every single day when you put your mind to doing something to improve your level of skill in terms of the areas that you want to progress in and you want to work towards every single day. You can literally work on that excellence every single day and be the best version of yourself. Let me know how you feel about this video. Speak to me in the comments. Tell me how you feel. And yeah, hopefully guys, I will see you in the next video.